Hey, welcome to Charter Oak Fiberworks. This is podcast episode number 5. This is a podcast about knitting and spinning and all of the fibery things here in New England where I live with my family. I'm Claire, and you can find me on Instagram where I'm most active, and you can talk to me and get more of a response from me there as Clarissa Jo Knits, or on Ravelry as Clarissa Jo. I'm not as active on Ravelry as I am on Instagram, so Instagram is the place to find me. I am flying show notes list today, so it might be a little bit jumbled as I go through things. Not that my podcasts previously have been super smooth, but this one might be even worse. I am going to do a wrap up of Vogue Knitting Live and just all of the things I've been doing in the last 2 weeks. So we'll just start now. I only have one finished object. See, and this is the thing, is I don't know what order to talk about things. I'm not going to share my finished object with you. Actually, I'm going to do my my whips, and then I'll talk about the projects that I've finished because they are all Vogue Knitting Live related. So I can talk about that all in one chunk. Okay. My whips this week. 2 weeks. My whips these last 2 weeks. I have not finished, but almost. I still need my thumb. I have got most of one mitten done from the Silbu Mittens by Skein Deer Knits. And it has not been blocked yet, and it's actually looking a lot nicer here on the screen than it does in real life. It's actually quite puckered, and I have a lot of mistakes along the edge there. That one's a little bit better. This one's a lot worse. This pattern has been wonderful and intuitive to make. The pattern is written up really nicely. I'm just not as experienced of a color work knitter as I should be as I'm doing this. I mean, this is what will get me to be the level of color work that I would like to be. So I did this working magic loop method because double pointed needles and all of the different yarns was it was hard for me to manage everything. So I have one done, not one done. I have the thumb to do on this one, and then I'll start working on the other ones. Look, isn't the backside just so beautiful? So when these block out, I think they'll be beautiful. I think it'll take care of some of my puckering, and I'm excited. They've been fun to work on. I am using, the white is Patton's Classic Worsted, and the purple is a hand spun yarn that I have done myself that I chain plied to make a 3-ply DK weight yarn. So that's my first whip. My second whip, I'm trying to get through these fast so that I can get to Vogue Knitting Live because that was my big thing. Is working on the Strange Brew sweater. I have this much of a sleeve. Let's see, should I put on my sleeve? So it's up to here. I think I'm actually going to rip it out because I'm going to change my needle size and make a smaller size with a larger needle and with worsted weight yarn so that I can get a fabric that I like, because this fabric is quite dense, and while it's working, I think that it will be very stiff on me to wear, and it kind of is hanging funny, and I think I can get a better, it's supposed to be a positive ease sweater, but I think I can get a better fit even as a positive ease sweater. So that might be ripped out. All that work, all of that sleeve work, but it's okay. It's okay because I don't want to make a whole sweater and then not have it. Oh no. Oh, my stitch marker broke. Look. Oh. these are my favorite. Oh, they're from Katrinkles, and I've never had one break before, so I must have really beat on these my bag pretty hard to get it to break. But anyway, Katrinkles is one of my favorite, and I got more stuff from her at Vogue Knitting Live. Oh, I love her stuff. Okay, so there's that one. 2 whips down. I'm using Patton's worsted wool on that. My last one is Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern on a Birds of Prey Yaksha by 100 Ravens yarn. So, and look at how this pattern looks so beautiful. I kind of wish I'd done a lighter colored yarn with this pattern because I think it would show up even better. But oh, the light on my face is not really working, but the light from the window on my knitting project is working really nicely today. So it suggests another heel that I didn't recognize, but because I got the gist of kind of what was going on in the pattern, all I did was do a heel flap and gusset, and then the top stitches I just keep patterning, and the bottom ones I don't. The yarn feels amazing. And just in the stockinette down here, it's so smooth and so delightful. I think that's the yak in there. It's so smooth. It's so nice. I usually do 2 socks congruently, but I was working on this. This was my subway project. I just wanted something easy that I could do on the subways. And as I was traveling to and from Vogue Knitting Live, because I had about a 40-minute subway ride in. So, yeah, I usually do 2 socks congruently, but because I was subway knitting, once I finished the cuff, I just kept going. And then at this point, I'm like, I'll just finish the sock and then start my second one and hope I don't get second sock syndrome too bad. It'll be really hard not to cast on some of the yarn that I picked up at the Vogue Knitting Live. So those are my whips for this week. They're pretty straightforward. They're all things that you have seen before that I've been diligently working on. My bag is, again, my Jessalou bag, stitched by Jessalou bag at Sock Nails, but I got a new pin, and I'm going to show it to you now while I have my bag out. I got it from Knit Picks, and it just grabbed my eye, and it's so cute. Are we focused there? Yeah. So it is a little unicorn knitting a rainbow. It has some glitter in it, and it's just the cutest thing. So I'm really excited. Anyway, that was one of the things I got. Okay, for spinning, because I have finished up some of my spinning. Now this is not washed yet. I'll show you when they're washed, but they're all done. I finished the mallard spin. Look. I need to almost turn on. Aren't they beautiful together? Maybe like this is better. So I would like for these to eventually be the yoke of the sweater that I'm designing with the Strange Brew. I have some different ideas for my Strange Brew sweater than when previously before I went to the class. So I may change my mind on using this for that project, but that's what it was spun up for. Maybe it will go into a different sweater. I don't know yet. Now, hopefully it'll keep working out. I haven't decided. Oh, choices. Okay, so I finished those. I did a very thin single, and then I Navajo plied it to get a 3-ply so that I could get a DK weight yarn. And they're a little bit skinny right now for a DK, but because of some samples I've done with this, when I wash it, it puffs up quite a bit and it'll give me the DK weight I want. So I just can't gush about these colors enough. Look at those. Oh, they're so wonderful. Okay. Let's talk about Vogue Knitting Live. I went to Vogue Knitting Live and it was amazing. I saw it randomly, not that I saw it randomly online. I knew Vogue Knitting Live was coming up, but it was one of those things that like, you're kind of like, oh, that would be really fun, but maybe next year, I don't know if I want to go. And I hopped on randomly and I'm like, I'm gonna see what classes are still available because it's only 2 weeks out. So every class I would want to take would be filled up. Do I want to go all the way into New York for a marketplace day? The marketplace was amazing at Vogue Knitting Live, but I was still hesitant about going in just for a marketplace day, especially when I have so many fiber festivals available to me in New England to go to that I can see. Not all of the vendors because they had a lot from Europe and stuff like that, but I can see a lot of those vendors at other places, and I just have good access to a lot of different yarns. So I got online and I was looking and I was like, what do I want? What do I want to do? What are some of my like goals? Sorry, I'm going to relax into this. So I was like, what are some of my goals this year? What do I want to do? And does Vogue Knitting Live work into what I would like to do? So I got on to look at their classes, and they had a class by Tin Can Knits and a called the Strange Brew class, and they were going to teach how to design yokes. And I was like, oh, I would love to learn to start designing. I don't think I want to design to make money. I don't know. But I would like to know kind of some basics about designing. So I was like, oh, I would like to do a little bit of design work. So I saw that class was still available. It was a full day one, 2 3-hour sessions, and I thought that would be really fun and I would learn a lot from that class because I didn't want to go to a class just to go to a class from someone. Not that they wouldn't be great, but I wanted to make sure that I was going for something I really needed to learn or wanted to learn. I know I need to learn lots of things, but something I really wanted to learn and helped me further my knitting skills. So that one was on, but then you could get a 1-class package, a class and a lecture, or you could get a 3 classes package. And I bought a lecture on top of that. So I was like, oh, that's 2 classes. I would need to find a 3rd. So I found on Sunday a class from Susan B. Anderson about making a little hedgehog. And I have been knitting Susan B. Anderson's patterns from the beginning of when I started to really knit. And my finishing for toys has always been kind of spotty. I just kind of throw them together because I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, I want to go take a class from her, and I want to learn how she finishes things and how she makes things look so even and professionally done when she's finished with things. And how she stuffs them, because she stuffs them in a particular way to make them stand up or shape the way that she would like them. And I was like, that's what I want to learn. So those are the classes I signed up for. I signed up for them. There was a For the Love of British Long Wools lecture that I wanted to go to. So I signed up for that. And then I got done signing up and I was like, how do I get there now? What am I going to do? So we looked at all of these different options about what to do. I could have gone in by myself. I could have stayed home and just like done the commute back and forth. It's about 2 hours, which would have been really tough, but doable. We ended up getting a hotel out at the end of the Red Line. And then Brian would drive me to the train station in the morning, and I could take the subway in all the way to Times Square. So it ended up working out well for us. The kids, they stayed, there was a pool in the hotel, and they just like played Nintendo all day and watched movies and went swimming. They spent an evening at Chuck E. Cheese while I went out with a bunch of friends. Yeah, it was good. So it worked out. So it worked out that I could go, and I was so excited, and I can't even explain like how excited I was, because it kind of just dropped and all worked out that I could go. So I can't show you my tag because it has my last name, but look, it's my book. And I used the map all the time. So it's like creased here because I just had it open to the map all the time. And I had printed out a map previously to Vogue Knitting Live of the vendors. And I went through all of their websites, because what do you do when you can't sleep at night? You go through vendor websites. So I went through their vendor websites, and I looked to see what kinds of things were each different vendor and what I wanted. And I marked them on the map with my little blue highlighter, and then I wrote the types of things I was looking at getting from them if I could get them there. So that helped because the marketplace was crazy. It was crazy. I'm not sure where to start. Okay, we're gonna hold on marketplace. I'm not gonna talk about marketplace. I'm gonna go back and talk about my classes. Okay. Lots of stuff today, I'm sorry. All right, my first class was one with Tin Can Knits. And oh, they are so sweet and knowledgeable, and I really appreciated that they really want to have the project work for you, work with what you have, instead of being, sometimes I feel like designers can be really unflexible in what they think will work, but I really appreciate that Tin Can Knits was like, oh, here, try this, or sometimes I do this, or a little bit more Mod Podge together. Not in their designs are beautiful, but they were very willing to help people kind of work out how to make their yarns or their designs work within the pattern that they had, and they had the knowledge to be flexible in that. So they had like Strange Brew books all printed out, and they have mine's not undone yet because I wanted to show you, but they came with a Ravelry download code so that I can get the digital copy and a paper copy. Oh, it was so sweet after they'd even emailed it to me. I mean, I know personally they were like, oh, you've already got an email to you, you're on your own. But they were so nice. So it is an amazing pattern. And it's, I mean, Strange Brew, it's more of a, look, and I had them sign my book because I was right there, so why not? So it's a recipe kind of for a sweater. It has all of the things to make a sweater, and then it tells you what size of stitches you have and what you need to design your pattern to do, and where you need increases in it. You need, like, it's all in there, and it's really easy, and I'm glad I took the class, but the pattern is written magnificently so that you can just know how to do it. So yeah, so their pattern. So then you bring your graph paper and you like write out all of your notes that tell you everything, and then you start to design what you want everything to look like as you're going through things. And this was much harder for me than I thought it would be. So while I was there, I wanted to, lots of people designed and started, they have this ingenious, like, make a swatch and make sure your pattern works by doing it into something useful. So they have a pattern for a hat and a cowl so that you can take your swatch and make something from it useful. So I took the patterns I just showed you that I picked out and was using, and I made them into this cowl, or maybe a tube. Look, I'm holding it upside down. Or maybe a tube like mine, I don't know. I just wanted to knit it up. So I just grabbed the yarns that I had picked up that I just had different colors of, and I was like, I'll just figure this out. So as I was going, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do like a night sky one. So this was a good practice. This was a good like practice for me to figure out how to do all the math and all the different parts. I don't know if I'll actually use this pattern on anything, but it starts with little mushrooms and flowers down here at the bottom, and then it goes into wavy grass up to mountains and stars, and then phases of the moon. And I really love the phases of the moon, and I'm going to maybe design another cowl that has a big phases of the moon all the way around it and knit them in maybe a variegated or self-striping or something, the moon part, and have a black, I don't know. But it's, now I'm like, I want to just draw pixel art all the time, which it's not, but color work art all the time, which reminds me of pixel art, because I'm like, oh, they have so many cool like Nintendo pixel art and things, all these really, watching a ton of Zelda right now. So I was like, oh, it would be fun to do something. Anyway, so my favorite part is this part here. I'm not as in love with this down here, but it was a fun, like, learn how to do things. So that is my first one. The first one is like the design goes across, goes around. It's designed around, and then you do a decrease row and design around and decrease row. Is how the first sweater that they suggest is. The second sweater yoke is a wedge, where your designs actually go up like this in a wedge around your yoke. Let me see if I can show maybe the picture of how they explain it without giving away too much. So here, so see, it has these different wedges here, and then you design up here like this. So I had a cool idea, which doesn't happen very, not that it doesn't happen very often. I'm being self-deprecating, but I had an idea as I was looking at those wedges, is it reminded me a lot of when we were in Denmark and studying Vikings, is that they have, the Vikings used to wear Thor's hammer, Mjolnir pendants. And I thought this would be such a cool wedge sweater design. So I took this as inspiration and I redesigned it out into this, which, see, here's my like Thor's hammer shape is in here, and then my dots all the way around, and then like a handle. And then you have to carry, you have to take into account your floats and make sure they're not too long and everything, which I did not do well with, because see this big like 15 stitch float. My first one, I tried. There's, in the middle of it, there's this like X with the 4, I think there's supposed to be like compass points on it. I didn't have enough room to put that into the yoke as it was decreasing, so I put these 4 here, but then I went down in the bottom and I did a big X here, and then here are the circles here. So I was able to also knit that up in this last 2 weeks into here. So here's my design all knit up. So see, here's those X's at the bottom with the circles. And then here's that same hammer shape and handle and the dots. As I took it up and as I wedged it, I was like, oh, this looks like those kind of pixie hats. So I just took it and I kept decreasing up until I ended in an I-cord, and I tied a little knot, and I came back and added a white crochet border on the bottom to kind of finish it out. I think it might work for a hat for Oliver, but anyway, that was my Thor's hammer design. I'm really happy. This is the one I love. So that's why I'm like, I think that changes how my colors work on my thing, because I really like this, and I would like to keep it like in a, I don't know. I think I might try to make it an Oliver size first with the same type of design. And do like a steel gray color and then a nice black to do the Thor's hammers up, because that would mean something to him. He would really like that. But isn't that awesome? Okay. Let's see. Oh, my other class. So that was my first class. And that was a ton of fun. My second class with Susan B. Anderson was this little hedgehog. Her design for this is like genius. Can I throw around genius? I'm talking about Susan B. Anderson. Her design is genius. Let me tell you how. Here, I finished him at Vogue Knitting Live. I finished him. Here he is. I got all the way through until I sewed his nose on in class, but I needed to do his face and his, I did one ear, I needed to do the other ear and his face, so I did those. After class was over, I went out in the hallway and finished it before I went back to the marketplace. So, isn't he cute? So, her design is just so smart. Here's how it works. So you start and you do a garter stitch belly here. And these, his feet are baubles. They're baubles, like they're not even anything separate on. And she has this really nice way to do baubles. If you're planning to buy the pattern, she has it on YouTube about how to do it, but her bauble is so easy. So you do a bauble, and then you cast on the stitches around his face. And then you join in the round and you knit his whole face like this and then finish. And then you lay him like this and you pick up all of the stitches around the outside here and you knit in the round up with these cool stitches. I'll talk about those in a second. You knit in this all the way up, and then you have this little line of stitches and you Kitchener them closed. You Kitchener them closed. So he's all in one piece except for his little nose that you make. You just make a bauble, the same as his feet. You make a bauble and then sew it on and then sew on his face. That's all the sewing. His ears are even picked up and put on. And I had to redo them once because they're not even. But oh, this stitch. Is so cool. Okay, so again, she has a video to show you how to do it, but it's the same one as on some of her sheep that she makes. But I'm so glad. You only had to do 4 rounds of it, which is very lucky because it takes some time and it's a little bit exhausting for the thing, and it took time. So what you do is you knit and you put through and you grab your stitch, right? You put through, wrap it around, grab it. Instead of pulling your last stitch off, you pull it through and you wind it up really, really tight, and then you ply it like back on itself, right? Like a rope, or like do a ply back test on your wheel. And then you slide that on and you knit those two together and it becomes these little curly hairs. So super sweet and easy to knit up. I'm going to make some more, maybe a whole little army of them because they're so easy and so cute. I did not stuff him as well as I thought I did. I was trying to follow how she says to stuff, but he doesn't stand up unless I really work with him. Oh, I love him. Her class was so amazing. She talked about all of the different finishing, about how to put things in, how to keep it nice. She showed all these different techniques. She would talk to us as a big group and then split into smaller groups and talk to us. At the table, we would go stand behind her and she'd show us the stitches there. And then she would walk around individually and make sure everyone was doing okay individually all the way through. And then when we got kind of further and we were about to hit the next step, she would talk to us a little bit again and then bring us back up. And she did that rotation 3 or 4 times to go through all of the techniques as we were coming up on them in the pattern. So very talented teacher, very good teacher, very talented knitter, very nice person. She's just like the whole package. She was and the last kind of class thing that I did is that I signed up for a lecture. And my lecture was For the Love of Long Wools, British Long Wool, Sheep and Wool by Jerry Robinson Lawrence of Flying Fibers. She is over in York County in Pennsylvania, I believe. And she has some British long wool sheep that are rare breed sheep here in the United States. She has Wensleydale and Teeswater and some other ones and some Shetland and stuff like that. So she gave this wonderful presentation about the how long wools are stronger and smoother, and they don't have as many like nips and knoils, and they don't pill. And it was a wonderful presentation. I learned so much. I'm so happy. I love to work with sheep, like from the sheep. I love to work from the sheep. So it was awesome to learn more about different sheep, more about different breeds than what I kind of have been working with here locally. And I would love to get some raw fiber from her and work it. I'll contact her later in the spring. So, but she was really smart and really knew what she was talking about. And she had samples out so you could go up and actually touch some of her thing. They had staple lengths that were like this long, like 10 inches. And I know I have the Icelandic wool that also has like a really long staple length like that, but these like have these curly locks, and so they just like could hold it up, and it's just these curly locks that look like doll hair. Just beautiful. So I want to try some long wools probably this summer after I get what I have already on my plate done. So that was really good. Worth staying until the afternoon of Sunday to see for sure. Amazing. So those are all the classes and lectures I took. Now we can talk about the marketplace. So the marketplace was crazy. It was bananas. Like, could not even walk through a lot of the time because it was so packed. I ended up trying to like video, do a walkthrough of like a bunch of booths with the video, and I will post some video from that, but it's like me holding up my camera, like squeezing through everybody like this. So I hope it's okay. I hope it's worth watching. I'll edit it and put it up here in a minute. But it was crazy. So in fact, so on Saturday, I walked through quite a bit of it. And let's see, did I go to anything during lunch the first day? I don't think I went to anything during lunch the first day. Oh, I got a book signed by Andrea Rangel. So in between my classes of the Tin Can Knits, I knew I wanted Andrea Rangel's new alternate stitch dictionary book. It's a whole colorwork stitch dictionary. And I I knew I wanted it, but I knew she was signing. So I went and got her to sign it. And she was signing at the Stephen and Penelope booth, the Stephen West booth there. So that's what I did for the first one. And I kind of walked around. I don't think I bought anything else. I just was kind of taking it in, and it was yeah, it was so much. It was just making me like, I had to like breathe and calm down and just kind of let it all sink in where I was. So after that, I was able to go back and buy some other things. I'll talk about all of those things, I guess, right now would be best. Hold on. All right, so on my Instagram, there's a photo that has all of the stuff that I got and all of the places I got them in case I forget where I picked things up, which if I do, I don't think so. So I'm looking at everything. I'm pretty sure I know where I got it all. So I didn't get a ton of stuff because it was just overwhelming. I wanted to go find colors for a free or fade shawl, but it was just so overwhelming that I couldn't like hold skeins of yarn up next to each other and see what would work as a fade because you couldn't even like get in. Oh, it's a little bit itchy for my bobble hat today. Okay, so let me talk about my yarn that I got. So, I don't think I can pronounce this, and so I'm not even gonna try. I'm sorry, Carrie, I can't pronounce your yarn. I met her and I went out to dinner with her and a bunch of other people from, I think India Untangled people. I was there with Asylum Fibers Stephanie, and so is Carrie. So here's her yarn. It is a sock yarn with a matching color set, a sock set. It says Mon sock heels and toe sets, and the color of the bluish, the big one, is Over the Falls, and this one is Green Apple. And they're blowing out from my light here, but they're in the picture much nicer. Anyway, they're beautiful, and I loved this idea of having the sock sets because I like to do heels, toes, cuffs with things. It says heels and toes, so I think I'm going to start with my toes and then do my heels and see if I have any left for a cuff, or I might not. But yeah, I love that hers was a set, and this color is just so beautiful. I know I've been picking up a lot of blues and greens on the lighter side lately, but I couldn't walk away from this, so I ended up with this. I tried to stop by on Sunday to say hi, but she was just so busy, so I'm glad that her booth was busy. She's over in Pennsylvania, and she's just a lovely lady, lovely dyer, so loved her stuff. I also stopped at Knit Picks. I showed you the pen, and I got some Felici. This one is Punch Bug. I got 2 balls of Punch Bug so that I haven't knit Felici before. So while I was there, and it was a little bit cheaper than it is online, it was like $3.50 a ball. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it. So $7 socks. That's a good, that's good for hand knit socks for me. Katrinkles, my stitch marker. Her stuff is so beautiful. So I contacted her ahead of time to see if I could get some things from her that I've been eyeing lately. So one of them is this wraps per inch gauge, and then it has let's see how it's cut out here, so I can lay my spun yarn into it and see where it is. If it's bulky to a lace or a fingering, I can just lay the yarn in. Sorry, I was really They smell really good, but that's because they're wooden. They smell good. Just when I'm pulling them up like this, I can smell them. And then the other part is I wanted to get an angle of twist and diz to pull stuff off of my combs so that I get a much more even comb top off of things. So I know our stuff is beautiful. I've been eyeing it for a while. I haven't seen the diz and angle of twist at any of the other places I've been that I've seen her, so I wanted to see if she had it, and she brought it for me, and I love it. So thank you, Katrinkles. I always love your stuff. Okay, I found at Brooklyn General, which there was this whole like row that I totally missed when I was going through the marketplace on Saturday. Totally missed because I was looking for Brooklyn General because they had these acorns there that were stitch marker holders from Make Supply Company. Okay, love this. So this is, they have a little washi tape that says Make Supply Company. It's a little acorn and Charter Oak Fiberworks. I love acorns. So it opens up and there's stitch markers inside. They have these, which are quickly becoming some of my favorite stitch markers to use for things because they are so versatile. Like I just throw them on my needle when I need a stitch marker, or I can unclip them and put them places, and I just love them. This is my last thing. My last thing I got is I found this beautiful little shop back in the corner called Northside, I'm gonna botch this. Northside Knitting Company. Let me look them up again. Northside Knit Company. Their aesthetic is just beautiful. Lots of neutral, natural looking colors in their booth, and this adorable bag, Phases of the Moon bag, which I love Phases of the Moon. And then look at these little scissors. They're just these tiny little scissors. I love that they have the big handles so they work like scissors. And then they have this little macrame piece off of them to just make these beautiful scissors. So I got some little scissors to throw in my notions pouch. Yeah, and that's what I got from Vogue Knitting Live. Let me tell you about some of the other events that I just got really quick in my last couple of minutes that I got to go to. So I was leaving Saturday night, and I was kind of done. I was overwhelmed. I had overstimulated, I think, mostly. But I had learned a lot. I had learned a lot that day, so my brain was just overworked, and I was kind of tired, and I was like, I'm just gonna go. And then I remembered that Christy Glass, in her prep for Vogue Knitting Live podcast, mentioned that she was doing the fashion show on Saturday night, and I was like, I'm already here. I should just go watch the fashion show. Let's see what it's all about, right? So I went up and I sat down, and I ended up watching the Rowan fashion show, which was great. The things people made are beautiful, amazing things out of Rowan yarn or Rowan patterns. They were just lovely. But they finished that up, and I was like, oh, it wasn't Christy Glass that did it. Maybe I was on the wrong day, or I missed it, or I don't know. My brain's fried, so whatever, I'll just go. So I was standing up to walk out, and as I was walking out, there was this woman knitting with this brioche pattern with bright, beautiful yarn. And I just commented on it, like you do, because that's what you do when you're at a conference with a bunch of knitting people. and found out that she was the dyer for Asylum Fibers, and that the yarn she was working with was her own hand-dyed yarn. It was beautiful. So we sat down, we started talking, and she invited me to go out for dinner after the fashion show that I meant to catch but was coming up. So I sat down with her and we talked, and I met a couple of other people, podcasters and stuff like that, that are in New York that were staying there. Watched the fashion show. It was really cool. Also beautiful things people knit. Lots of large items. I haven't made a sweater for even myself yet because I'm such a product knitter. Like, I see a pattern, I know that I want it, so I just knit it. And so these things where they were in like full like house coat, knee length, like a house coat or sweater looking items, full like color work, sweaters, cardigans, like is amazing to me. I just don't have that kind of patience, but maybe I'll get there as I'm knitting more and stuff. I just love hats. So I sat down and I ended up watching that one with them, and then we went out to Beer Culture, I believe is where we went. And I got some tater tots because it was about the only vegetarian thing in the place. And yeah, sat there, hung out, met a bunch of different people, and got to have like a good night. I'm glad that that I didn't go home right away, that I stuck around and got to meet some wonderful knitters around. And so yeah, so that was kind of my Vogue Knitting Live weekend. I'm looking over at my bed because I have everything lined up very carefully when I do a podcast, but yeah, I'm making sure I hit everything down the line because I didn't write show notes. So who knows if this is even gonna make sense. I'm gonna come edit this, and I'm probably gonna have to chop things up and move them around because I just am kind of talking at you today. But I'm late on the podcast, and I'm trying to be up on things so that I don't get too behind and then let myself be like, oh, it's been too long since I did a podcast, no one cares. So yeah, this is me blathering some more. I just look at me, just blah blah blah, I just keep talking. Anyway, Vogue Knitting Live was awesome. I'm excited to go back next year. I have a full plate this year of different fiber events that I want to go to. Biggest next one is Rhinebeck. I'm trying to figure out how to get to India Entangled and Rhinebeck. I live close enough that it's a day drive, and it's a totally doable day trip. But I think I'd like to stay the weekend and stay the night and do like a big knitting weekend. So yeah. Anyway, if you like my podcast, then if you could hit the subscribe button down below, then that will let you know when I post new episodes. Also feel free to leave a comment and to go over and follow me on Instagram. So thank you for your time. Bye. All right, I'm up on the like art area and checking out some of the stuff that's up here. The knitted art is pretty awesome.